Police officers of Reddit. What stupid law have you enforced just because someone was an a-hole? How about a cop getting a ticket for being an a-hole? We had one of our safety officers. They work for the province and enforce safety rules in the workplace. He was driving to a construction site about an hour out of town when a cop pulled him over for doing about 10 km/h over the limit. He tried to state he had only been going 10 over the limit, but the cop was being a and said something like rules are the rules. Cop goes back to the car, writes up his ticket, and comes back to give it to the guy, and the safety officer hands him back a ticket as well. Cop asks him what this is for, and he says rules are rules. When you are on the side of the highway you must be wearing your high visibility jacket. I always thought this was pretty funny. Meanwhile, any of the rest of us citizens go slightly over, we just have to pay up the $100+ for endangering no one, and we have no power, and thus no recourse. I was way out of state recently, 1,000 miles from home. Officer writes me a speeding ticket for going 34 in a 25. I'd been driving in a 35 that changed to 25, and he was sitting right next to the sign. The speeding itself was only $54, but the processing fees totaled $75, unless I could drive all the 1,000 miles back to the court summons. He told me, well, even though you're out of state and didn't know it drops from 35 to 25 here, that's too bad. Rules are rules. That's a complete dick move. Total n***. In California I got my one and only moving violation. Ticket was like $60, but they added on fees that took it over $450. I've got a few. We have a small children's garden/park in our city. I was walking through one day and saw a guy picking cherry tomatoes off the plant and eating them. Therefore looks and not eating, and there's a sign at the entrance that says that. I politely told him to stop eating the tomatoes and pointed out the sign to him, explaining that the fruiting plants were there for the kids to see and that any food that comes from them will be picked and given to a homeless shelter. He didn't agree and picked another tomato and ate it right in front of me. I remembered that our city has an ordinance called intentional damage to city-owned shrubs and trees which carries around a $450 fine. He got a ticket for it that day. It's the only time anyone can ever remember that statute being used. Another time I pulled a car over because he had a cover over his license plate that used to be clear. Clear covers are legal, but had been damaged by the sun and weather to the point that you could barely read the plate under it. That's not legal. I stopped him with the intent of just letting him know of the problem and writing him a warning. When I told him why I stopped him, he picked up a book from his passenger seat with our state code of laws in it and asked me to show him where in the book it said he couldn't have a faded cover. He was a real ass about it too. I told him I wasn't going to go through his book looking for the statute, but that I would go back to my car and write down the statute number for him and that he could look it up for himself. Well, guess what? Our warning tickets don't have a space for the statute number, but our real tickets do. So he got a ticket with the statute number on it. He paid his $100 fine without coming to court. I'm not sure what bothers me more between the license plate covers, where you can't read the license due to tint accidental scratching, or the custom plates that people use across multiple vehicles that become so faded all of the reflective paint has long since chipped off. The second is frustrating because a lot of people in my city have custom plates from the big university in the city that have got to be 20 years old now. You can usually see a faded tiger logo on the side. Numbers are typically toast. Where I live the latter is also illegal. If the paint is missing from your letters it's a big fine. You should have replaced it. Mine is legible and in compliance, and I think it is illegal where I live as well, just rarely enforced. I usually don't add extra tickets when someone is an asshole, but depending on things, start will help me make my mind on real or warning tickets. Best case I can think of is how a guy turned a DUI into a $50k bond. He decided to tear my interior door handles off while sitting in my back seat and trying to reassemble the lock so it will work and open the door. Except I was staring at him, telling him to stop while he said he wasn't doing it. He tried it with both of them. So it's 2 felony counts of damaging government property. Then I couldn't find a spring from the door handle, so tampering with evidence, which is another felony. Then the car he drove there in was a car he was supposed to be fixing at his job and he wasn't authorized to drive it, especially since it was taken to his shop for an oil change. He worked at a dealership and repaired cars. So he had a felony vehicle theft charge for trying to drive a customer's $100K car to his ex-girlfriend's house. My call was from his ex-girlfriend, and 2 neighbors called because he was screaming outside her door. He got public drunk and disorderly conduct for that. He was trying to hide when I got there, but he was on the 2nd floor of the apartment, so he got another charge of obstruction. He also got the DUI charge, so his license was pretty much gone because it was his 3rd or 4th DUI. Only charge that got dropped was tampering with evidence because it was too petty. I figured most of it would be dismissed, but his lawyer was horrible. He stayed in jail for like a month because his wealthy parents were tired of his shit, and he drove that $100K car through their closed garage before he drove it to his ex-girlfriend's house. I had a boss that did this at the auto garage I worked at. Every day, the boss, who owned the place, would disappear for up to 3 hours in a different customer car, leaving me, the college receptionist who doesn't know a thing about cars, and the technician, who isn't authorized to do anything, waiting for him, while apologizing to customers he was supposed to be serving. One time he put 60 miles on a customer car in a week. I checked the odometer. I quit that place after a month. Excessive noise from a vehicle. I never give that ticket because it's kind of a waste of time compared to what I could be doing, but also most people have the common sense not to be blasting their shit at 150 decibels around the fuzz. I just finished a call at Walmart. It's Walmart, so the parking lot is packed, people, kids, families everywhere. This truck starts rolling through super slow. Dude had the fucking power stone hooked up to his sound system. Pure move. Pulled him over just to have the conversation about respecting others. Guy was a like a huge, floppy, angry green. He got $1,100 worth of tickets where he could have gotten a warning if not for the attitude. Edit. For those curious about where the fine comes from, it's like $80 for the noise ticket. It's $1,000 for not having car insurance. Like, he didn't have any at all. At the bus stop one morning we suddenly hear the ice cream truck music. It's 7 AM. Guy in a truck comes around the corner with sound system blaring the exact music our ice cream guy uses. Dad driving is laughing hard at his kids waiting for the bus. Best dad troll ever. I just realized I need to download the ice cream truck song. Surely it would be better to find out what song your kid loves and or is super popular. Learn the lyrics, then drive past while singing along at the top of your lungs. First and patrol story here. It was a busy night a few years back, and some idiot was running around lighting anything flammable on fire. Dumpsters, couches, mattresses, you name it. We ended up with guys escorting fire trucks through the neighborhood just soaking down anything that could conceivably be ignited because nobody could find this guy. I was part of the group searching for him. I passed by an apartment complex and heard a solid thud against the side of my patrol car. I looked over and saw a shirtless, curly-haired drunk guy standing in his doorway laughing. I stopped the car to inspect for damage and planned to have a little chat with the guy if there wasn't any damage, mostly to advise him that he should 1. Probably stay inside because he is drunk, and 2. Not throw footballs at police vehicles. He was an absolute jerk from start to finish. Long story short, we have a city ordinance entitled throwing missiles into a street, which is usually used to get people to stop blocking a street if they are playing ball in it. He is the only person I know of to actually be charged under that ordinance. Think everyone is wondering, did you catch the arsonist? I won't lie, as I was reading the story, I thought the moron was the arsonist and completely gave himself up because he couldn't stop himself from lobbying an empty gas can at a cop car. Once saw a fellow officer write a ticket for bald tires among several other things because the driver decided to use his First Amendment right to call the officer a slang racial slur. As someone who has previously wrecked a car in the rain, please change your tires when they are bald so you don't accidentally kill someone on the highway. I was lucky to only lose my car. Was broke in college. Drove to see my family during the holidays and it rained. Wrecked my car due to hydroplaning. 0/10 would budget the same way again. Your tires are the sole contact between you and the road. Respect that. Luckily I was fine and all other drivers were able to safely avoid my concrete twirling. The best 2 car insurances are good tires and good brakes. Cheap out on your radio, paint job, hell even the windows, but spend the good bucks on tires and brakes. Always spend good money on things that go between you and the ground or arrest your movement. Tires and brakes, quality shoes with good tread, tents of camping, mattress, etc. Cop here was at the end of my night shift, about to head home, when I heard a crash near the detachment. Went to investigate and saw a couple of guys walking away from a local homeless feeding shelter and a shopping cart that was thrown at the building, nearly breaking the window. Went to go have what was supposed to be a 5-minute chat about not breaking stuff on your way home from the bar, but one of the guys kept walking away from me. Just said nope, and I don't have to stop for you, after I formally detained him. Won't give a name or anything. Eventually told him it's an obstruction charge, which I rarely do, because people are kinda jerks a lot of the time, but he kept not saying. Ended up being arrested for mischief, held overnight in the drunk tank, and a $250 ticket for obstructing a peace officer, because he didn't want to have a 5-minute talk about not being a jerk when drunk. I'm curious, how do you inform someone you're formally detaining them? Is it as simple as I'm ordering you to stay here? No, you tell them that they're detained for an investigation for whatever you're investigating, and record their responses in your notebook.